It is why when there is war, it is the artists that are often the ones shut down. We're closing down the theaters and the galleries because the artists are dangerous. We are scary. We are hopefully truth tellers.
Val, you are the founder and artistic director at Fire Exit Theatre in your 23rd season of Telling Stories That Matter in Calgary, Alberta, which is where I used to call home before I landed
Canada.
Canada, before I landed in Washington. You've got a BA in theatre and speech from Trinity Guild in the UK.
Yes.
That's fun to know. And that you are a member of the Playwrights Guild of Canada, and that you, with your colleague Barrett Hyland, launched the first ever theatre program at Ambrose University, now part of Ambrose Arts. You've worked 15 years with Centre Street Church in creative arts and communication. You've got a host of directing credits. You direct, you freelance, you do speaking, education, you're a spoken word artist and a writer. And this is one of the things I'm most excited about delving into today, that you believe the only way to change culture is to create culture, and that storytellers change the world.
It's such a cheesy phrase, but we actually are.
Yes.
Right now, Netflix is streaming 5.5 billion, that's a B, hours of content a month. Whoa. That's how much content. And that's not Prime and Disney and that one streaming platform is streaming billions of hours of story into our worlds. So I'd like to say, well, it's just impacting the kids, those crazy kids. But no, Netflix and all the storytellers are telling us what to wear and where to shop and how to smell and who to vote for and what to do about sex and money and God and family. And we are all being impacted in a gargantuan way, certainly in North America. It's one thing to say, I love that. I think parents have an impact for sure. But really, politicians, even teachers and preachers, they are not having the impact that storytellers are having on us every single day.
Yes.
And I'm a storyteller, and even I'm not happy about that. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of power. That's not, because there's a lot of dangerous stories or bad stories being told in the world that I'm not okay with.
Yeah.
But I can complain about them, which will do nothing. I can write a letter to someone, or I can boycott something. That does nothing. The only way to change culture is to create more culture.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to do.
And do more storytelling. And I thank you from all of us out in the world. Some intentional storytelling that isn't just about the marketing and the branding and the clicks and the likes and the views and all of. So you are working on or have worked on how to tell a good story with your life. Can we just start there? Tell me what that means.
I remember thinking to myself, I've spent most of my adult life creating stories, being super intentional. As someone who has a producing house, I'm choosing the plays, I'm choosing the playwrights I want to work with, the directors I want to work with, what kind of stories I actually want to tell and how they're going to look from set and costume and lighting and all the things. And I was like, I wonder, I don't seem to spend that much time thinking about my own life, my own story that I am telling with my life. And then as a playwright, I know how to tell a good story. I know all of the elements that have existed since Aristotle. Those structures still exist in every movie you go see, every play, every book. From, we have a beginning, a middle, and end. We have a 3-act structure. We have a climax. We have a hero's journey. We have conflict. If there is no conflict, there's no story. Two people agreeing about something on stage for 2 hours, nobody's going to see that.
Not interesting.
But in our own lives, we're like, conflict. No, I will do anything to not. Or we want to see really brave people, giving up their kidneys to, to cure something and climbing the mountain and the Lord of the Rings. We love adventure. But we don't want to get off the couch and actually do that. That would, entail me putting pants on and leaving the house. And the understanding when I'm writing a character that the only way that character changes is through hard things. We want the character arc in a story is They were terrified at the beginning. They're brave at the end. They were Scrooge at the beginning, and they were generous. Well, what happened? They didn't just wake up one day and go, oh, now I'm brave. They had to actually face a bunch of dragons to get there. Or how did I become a better friend? Well, I probably had to make a bunch of mistakes along the way. How did I become more patient? Well, I had to wait. Like, there's no pill to take or a topical cream to be like, I want to be patient. I'll take that, right? Like, you have to do the hard thing that changes your character. And so I looked at that and was like, well, yeah, why am I not integrating that into my life? And so I do this workshop. It's like a half-day workshop that I've done with stay-at-home moms and CEOs. And we look at sort of the elements of story and our own stories. We look at who are the heroes and villains of our life. What's our backstory? What's keeping us from conflict? We talk about our values. Like, what are the things there isn't a CEO that I haven't gone into a boardroom and I say, tell me what your values are. And number one, they're all like, well, my family. Cool, I say. When was the last time you were home for dinner? Oh no, they work 100-hour weeks and they never take a vacation. So look, that's not one of your values because it's not showing up in your calendar. I always say calendar and checkbook, but nobody knows what a checkbook is anymore. I have to explain to them. So I'm like, you say family's important. That has to show up somewhere, right? Or health is important or whatever the thing is. So yeah, at the end of the thing, we write our eulogies, which I think everyone should do. Like, right? Like, you just make crap up. All the things that I'm going to still do that are like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to win the Nobel Prize. I haven't yet, but I got some time, hopefully, right? But look, I've gone to a lot of funerals for lots of reasons. And I'm deeply interested in funerals. I'm interested in what people are saying, not just from the platform, but also in the foyer before. Like, that's where the real stuff's happening, right? You have to say sort of nice things up there, but then there's the other. I used to work at a really large church in Calgary, and so often there was big funerals that were like military, police, where they needed a giant venue. And I remember one time, this is many years ago, a young man had been killed. He was in the army. And it's all, like, we're talking all of the regalia, all the stuff. Cool. His best friend gets up to give the sort of eulogy or the tribute. And he says, man, he really loved playing video games. I was like, what? And I've been to like friends, not that long, I went to a friend's stepdad died. And the kids got up and said, boy, he loved golf. I was like, oh my gosh, if I get to the end of my life and people are like, wow, she liked pickleball. I don't play pickleball. But what story do I have to live so that at the end, people remember that I had a good story? Hopefully they're like, oh my gosh, when my father died, who never had a new car, never had a new house. Like, hundreds and hundreds of people were like, your dad visited my brother who was in prison and changed the trajectory of our family. Your dad visited my dad when he was dying in the hospital. Your dad gave... I want that. I want people to stand and say, yeah, Val, and she was kind. And yeah, she made me laugh, but yeah, we want the end, but we don't want to do the hard stuff in between. Yeah. So that's what this workshop is about, of like, let's just stop for a minute and be a little more intentional about how we're living our lives and what are we intentionally integrating in.
So good.
Right?
I'm thinking about a former client I had who had aspirations to write the great American novel, so to speak. And when we really dug into it, when we got further along the road of exploration on this, he finally realized, no, I don't want to write it. I want to have been the guy who wrote it.
100%. I love saying I've written a play. I don't want to be in the writing because that's ugly.
No.
It's hard. It's like,
it's painful. It's great. But he wanted to be the guy who had.
Yes.
And I just thought, what a great reflection on the human situation. Yes. We want to have done the great things without bothering with the pants and getting off the couch.
Gosh, yes. 100%.
It's so true. So when we think about this idea of, I mean, I really love this. There's no better parallel that I can think of about how to tell a good story with your life and how to love yourself into your life. Mm-hmm. What do we do with the thing we're loving ourselves into our life from? So it's really great to say we started hard and we got cured. We started it sick and we're better. We started it, cowardly and now we're brave, all those kinds of things.
No.
But when you're in it and you don't feel connected to your life force, your vitality, your joy, courage, creativity, all of that, what do you know about that space that would help people to recognize, hey, this is the call to adventure?
No.
As opposed to a place you're going to live for the rest of your days.
It's so much about intentionality, right? When I think of how much we pour into thinking about our retirement and what we have RSPs, 401, whatever your
401ks here. Yep.
Right. Or we're thinking about our career. We're thinking about who we're going to marry. We're thinking about raising our kids. Like, we're so intentional about that. And yet our own stuff, having worked, I was an acting teacher. So working with 18-year-olds who so full of potential, but have every excuse why they couldn't possibly have a life in the arts. So I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too rich, too poor, I'm too, everybody had a reason. And people don't become successful, certainly in the arts, actually, because most of the time it's not only because they're talented. Lots and lots of talented people are now accountants. Who doesn't love a good accountant? But
right. Because
they just couldn't do the hard work it took for them to actually make the dream happen. I think I'm just gonna make a number up, but that's what you do, right? You just say, look, I think 80% of the people on the planet have never figured out what they were put on the planet to do. Or they saw it, they had a glimpse of it. We've all had a moment of right? Where you're when you step on the stage for the first time, when you do your first podcast, when you take your first class as a lawyer and you go, and there's a part of you that has been woken up. And then immediately the critic goes, that's not a real thing. You're not smart enough. You're too old. I went back to university in my late 30s. And I said to my life coach at the time, look, I'm going to be 40 when I graduate. And she's like, you're going to be 40 anyway. Why don't you be 40? And I was like, you're right, right? But I think there's so many forces against us that are no. And so we just default into, and I'm not saying this is a completely negative thing, but the majority of the people then, you get married and you have 2 kids and those kids take gymnastics and you get a beagle and you play pickleball. And at the end of your life, you're like, well, that was fine. And it was fine. But what if there was something specific that you were put on the planet that only you could really do that would not only fill you up, but be a gift to other people? But it's terrifying. I had it in junior high, walking into the dark dungeon of the drama room that was next to the furnace room in the basement and being like, oh my gosh, that's not a real job. You can't get a real job doing that. Nobody told me I could. Not one person was like, hey, this is a real job. You could actually do this for the rest of your life. I just figured that out after 13 years at the bank. Who thought that was a good idea? Right. Right.
And yet it was of service too,
100%.
in its way.
I lived in the left side of my brain for a period of time. I figured out what to do with a budget and how to write a spreadsheet and how to be a lead. It was a master's class in business, which helped me succeed as an artist, which again is a problem for artists. But yeah, and I just think we're all sort of numb. I think we're numb from, again, COVID.
Yeah.
We just are numb. And so we're not really paying attention. We get up, we go to our okay job, and then we come home and we walk the dog and we watch Netflix for 3 hours and go to bed and do it over.
And this is why this is why a bunch of different things are moving in my life, I know, is it's this idea of, it's something between everything is fine, and it's true, it's fine. Why disrupt that which is fine? Bilbo Baggins was fine in his little hobbit hole. Why would I leave?
Right.
Just, no, it smells wrong and I need my hanky. All the things.
Right.
And it's somewhere between that and this idea of languishing, which is this word that has really captured my imagination of late, that we languish in this almost place. And from there, we kind of forget even how to want. Right. I know for me, to make it really personal, I remember both with clients and with myself, well, I had a coach of mine who said to me, what's your favorite thing to eat for breakfast? And she's like, don't think, speak. I'm like, banana. And she's like, really, banana? Or I'm like, well, that's what my 4-year-old eats, right? It just, there was no there wasn't a more there. It was, well, because this is what I do. This is the season I'm in. I've got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and we eat bananas a lot. And coming down, and then I started, when I'd talk to women, what is your favorite drink? Milk? No, I bet not. I bet not.
I bet not. Chocolate
I got a
milk,
hunch. Call me
closer.
crazy. That's exactly right. And, really coming into this idea for me, part of the way back, I would say, was developing a relationship to my own desire, preferences, wants, likes, things that I favored over other things. But because we learn by contrast, I had to do the other first. I had to languish in this place of almost.
Yeah.
Languish is very dramatic.
Yes.
But languish and then be fine, and then languish a little bit, and then be depressed, and then be fine, and then have a nice girls out, and then come back. And so I'm wondering how you think about what is it that creates enough propulsion to lift us out of that okay place. Nobody's dying. I don't have a terminal illness. My food is on my table. What gives us lift?
Yeah. It's interesting. Usually we are motivated by bad things, not good things. What we would call bad things. Usually we are motivated by, I have a terminal illness. My relationship is ending. Like most people are like, oh, I'm not going to fix my marriage until it's almost broken. And I'm not going to lose weight until I have a stroke or a heart attack. And I'm not going to, right? Sometimes we can change if we win the lottery, but most times it's out of what I call inciting incidents. What's your inciting incident? So yeah, Lord of the Rings finds the ring. Here, he could have just put that in his pocket and carried on. We would not have, 47 hours of the epic.
Right.
And so we have hundreds, if not thousands of inciting incidents throughout our lives that we can either go, okay, I'm going to drink that away. I'm going to sleep that away. I'm not going to, whatever, my mom has cancer. I just lost my job. Or you can go, oh, this is interesting. What an exciting incident that I could step into and go, I can go, oh, as me, which again, we all love to do. Just, stuff is happening to me. I didn't have any control over. Correct. But you get to choose what is the next thing. So I had 2 brothers who passed away. And when my first brother passed away, thing in my body went, oh my gosh, he died when he was 39. So didn't even, no, 40. Oh my, life is short. Well, I'm never going to just read a book again. I have to I got so much shit done. I was so productive. I was like, oh my gosh, go. Life is short. About 7 years ago, a second brother died. And everything inside of me was like, oh my gosh, life is short. Slow down. If you're moving so fast that if you don't have time to go and watch his grandkids play hockey, which they're, 8, so they've, just fall on the ice, but then I'm too busy, right? And so I had these very different visceral feelings to oh my gosh, right? And part of it's just, I'm a grumpy old woman now too, so I'm, right? Yeah, it's interesting, and I say it jokingly, but I have experienced a lot of death and loss in my life. Look, I was fired from our job. I was escorted out of the building at Bankers Hall in downtown Calgary. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I've lost relationships. I've lost lots of family members. And I think loss has certainly devastated me for a long time. And I think also in a healthier way has hopefully inspired me.
What is your way of finding lift? I just so appreciate the distinction between the 2 responses to your 2 brothers' deaths, right? And it's so relatable. This idea of life is short. I've got to slow down. I've got to pay attention.
Right. Life is short. Speed up. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody panic. Right. How much can we produce, create, consume, acquire, all of those kinds of things. And so for you, when did you start to see that? Or did you know right away because you had enough wisdom? What put you back into...
That's very kind of you to think that... wisdom, yes.
Yes.
I want a pipe right now. I feel but would look wiser. Yeah, I don't know if it was one thing or if it was a series of things, or I think being involved in storytelling in particular, just coming up against story and crafting over and over and over again, and just having this maybe gradual realization of realizing the impact that other stories have had on me, and just that slow, again, realization of, but what's my story? how do I want to be remembered? And it's not about legacy. And although I do hope there's a bust of me somewhere when I
Yes.
die. But I just think that'd be fun.
I'll get a bobblehead.
Also good. Like I will. Yes. On the
Exactly.
back of your car.
Yep. May everyone know Val.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that it was one thing. I think it was a series of things. I have wrestled with depression my whole life. I think it's a hereditary thing. I think I've had it since I was a teenager, but was never allowed to. And I'm not saying anybody shut me down. I didn't allow myself to actually use that word until after my father died, when I was in my 30s, was like, oh no, this seems more than sad. And that was the first time I really kind of got diagnosed. And then I remember like kind of coming off of them. And then 2.5 years after my father died, my first brother died. And I was like, I'm going to hang on to those.
Yep.
And then I was like sort of coming off during COVID. No. And
Yep.
yeah. So I think it's certainly, I have a propensity actually for sadness, for pessimism. I'm German. That's like for being a sturdy
Yes.
pessimist, realist.
Realist. Yep.
I'm seeing that even more as my mother is aging, and the realization of like, oh, I don't think I want to be quite like that. Joy is a choice for me every day. It is not my go-to, even though people are like, oh, Val, she's happy all the time. She's
And she giggles.
funny, right? But it really is a choice for me to be like, oh, here's what I really want to do is I actually just want to eat Oreos today and watch, Lion King. Yeah, I'm realizing more and more my own natural tendencies. I think it was a whole bunch of little things. It
Yeah.
just sort of like gradually.
That rolls into the story of the making of you.
Yeah, and I continued, right? I'm still evolving. I'll say, look,
Yeah.
there is something happens when you turn 50. I don't know what that is. You suddenly do not give a flying fig Newton about most people's opinions. Like something just shut off of me where I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, oh, are you commenting about my hair? Oh, I don't care. Are you commenting about my, like,
Yep.
yes.
It's so good. I have a writing coach, actually, Bill Knauer, who I actually interviewed in season 1. And the big thing that stuck with me from him is this idea of forgetting to care what other people think. And I really, I hung on to that for dear life. This idea of that it was possible to forget to care what other people think.
Right.
And to do that creatively with respect to writing, with respect to anything creative.
Yes.
Okay, what would be different if I forgot to care what anybody thinks? Well, I would start the podcast.
Right.
I would, as my brother put it, he listened to it and he goes, wow, you really have to punch a hole in your universe and stick your face in it. I was like, accurate, it's true.
Thank you for the visual. Yes.
And yeah, that's exactly what was required. And what do we do with that? And so when I look through the lens of the story, making a good story of our lives, if everything is creative fodder, it brings to mind a question that I'm sitting with more and more and more. And starting to write about for myself, it's starting to take shape, is this idea of how do you build a human? So if I were God, if I were source, divine, if I were the initiator of life, would I have enough love and enough courage to allow enough suffering for the making of quality people? And that's not a straight up answer.
Yeah.
Because these things are hard. And I think about something like, why did my dad have to die when I was 19? No, I object on principle.
Exactly.
And it's been okay.
Furthermore,
Exactly.
if I was in
Exactly
charge.
right. Yep. That's right. And I think about the things that shape us, and I'm struck. I'm going to go back to. Do you want me to read the quote from your play, or do you want to read it?
You
The
go
one that
ahead.
Okay. So you said something in this last play that you wrote. This is the most recent one, correct?
Yes.
And this is a line from that. It says, I have never felt comfortable in my skin. My body is not what I'd hoped for. Maybe for an hour or two while escaping into a good book or staring into the sea, I have forgotten that I have one. And you go on to talk about that then you see your thigh and it's too much, that you aren't conventionally pretty, that there's this packaging thing. When we're shaping a character, how does the plot line change? How do the characters around, how do the heroines and the allies shift and change based on the packaging of that character?
Yeah.
And how do these things shape our lenses? And you described wishing that people didn't see you first, they felt you first.
Yeah.
And what would that feel like?
A
What do you
bowl of
want?
beef barley soup. That's how I want
Nice.
people to experience me. With like a biscuit and
Yeah.
like the fire when it's raining. That just makes you feel good, right? Like I hate in many ways that we have this outward, and yet I'm not a Gnostic, right? I do think there's something, the creator created the body. I'm not just soul and spirit, I'm also body, and that's on purpose and that is on plan. But I live and work in a very visual industry. I'm a visual leader. I'm on stage a lot, whether I'm performing, teaching, just introducing the shows. And that phrase, I'm not conventionally anything. I'm not conventionally pretty. I've never had that. I would never in my entire life, would that word be something I would associate. Like people are like, oh, when you're in high school, you were pretty, or you college. I'm like, no, never. No, actually not that. No, actually, honey, sometimes am I other things? And of course, my pride, I'm like, well, I don't really think about it that much. And I'm not saying it has consumed me, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's come to the forefront a little bit more as I'm aging. And it's not like I'm going to get better looking. Let's be clear. Like, it doesn't go uphill from here. It's only down now, in all ways.
I'm also thinking, what happened when we crossed over 50? You've already named, we don't give a flying fig Newton.
It's true.
Right? And
it's
so
true.
What comes up for me in the telling of a good story with our lives is to look back at those younger versions of ourselves and to reclaim those moments and the things that were distractions or the things that were painful. And what do we do with them? How do we craft those now or recraft those now into a different part of our story? And so if you think about that, and what has been the role of you coming up with this lens on yourself? How has it fueled or distracted from or competed with your creative life?
I think it has prevented me in some ways. There is definitely, even this last show that I just did, I'm not on stage a ton anymore. I'm not a working actor because I'm a producer, but literally was like, if I could just lose 10 pounds, I would just look better on stage in the costume. If I, on the video, it's gonna look that's in the back of my head of, I'll just wait until, the until's not coming. So
that's so well named. Yeah.
Right. So I think it has allowed me to procrastinate when I probably shouldn't, that I could have done things sooner. Yeah, I think it's limited even when I was acting more of what roles I would go out for, because I don't look that. Now, will I argue that it's actually maybe even more so in theater than in film, that I think it actually is broadening out quite a bit more, where there's lots of bodies on stage of different shades and sizes and colors, and which is lovely. But I have thought a fair bit about this, and here's growing up. I have these memories of my mother trying to home perm my hair. Look, we all did it.
Oh, been there. Yep.
Look, I have the straightest hair on the face of the there is not a stitch of, there's no, and my mom would put those curlers in with it and it would burn your scalp because she'd leave it on for 7 hours or something. Yes, and just this to this day, look, I'm 56 years old and my mom's still if only you had a little curl in your hair. If only, why do you gotta look like that? Why? So yes, being forced to look a certain way at a very young age, imprinted of oh no, you have to look this way because that's what girls look like, or that's what proper girls look like, and again, I love that it's a lot bigger now in our world of what you can and can't look like. But boy, as you talked about earlier, those profoundly sticking things from when you're a kid, right?
Really true. And I have a hunch we're speaking to most, if not all, women.
Right.
When we're talking about this. We
boys,
all have our thing.
Are boys sitting around thinking about this?
I think no. I want to be respectful of the fact there are exceptions to every rule, but I just don't think that's true. I was telling somebody, I was in the car listening to some ad that started, and this was very recently. 80% of men prefer women who, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Are we still doing this?
What year
Are
is
we
it?
still doing this? That's insane. And the fact that if one is just listening, if one is vaguely asleep in their life,
Right.
if one is just getting by and letting it wash in,
Yeah.
all they heard was 80% of men prefer this. And I don't even know what it was because I was screaming all by myself in the car. So I didn't hear a darn thing. No idea what it was about. But yeah, it drops in.
Right.
And I just want to highlight how much it interferes. It forces us to turn away from a really sacred and important part of ourselves. Yeah. And for any good character that I have loved, any good hero or heroine, when I'm reading a really good book, when I'm really engrossed in a story, I am not as visual as I feel like I used to be. I can't always tell you what color their hair was at the end of the day. I frequently can't remember their names, but I can tell you the ins and outs of the emotional journey all the way through. And that's just part of my wiring from early on. Also getting the home perms. And my sweet mother now who will look at me and go, she's like, maybe a little bit more lipstick. Try that on. And and it's real. And so what comes up for me is this idea of reclaiming our stories is not just about, if you will, healing the stories that were when we were younger, right? The ones that sort of dropped in, but reclaiming, recrafting, rewriting them going forward. What do we take forward and what do we shed?
Yeah.
Because here's what I think I know about writing. Correct me if I'm wrong, or just shed more light on this, that at some point the creative process is about what you choose not to include.
Oh, good writing is all about editing. Like we sort of belch out our first draft, put all the stuff, and then it's great writing is actually just, it's eliminating all the stuff. You're like, oh, that's really funny. It actually doesn't work here. Oh, that's great. No, that doesn't work. Like, it's all the stuff we have to eliminate. We're not, I'm not usually at a lack for great ideas. It's then, what do they say? Kill your babies, right?
Yeah. Kill your darlings is how I heard it. Yep.
Right. And so, I think it is in the same in their life, right? What are we adding to it and what are we eliminating? It's both and of, Oh, women, why?
Right. So let me ask you this: when you're writing a screenplay, how do you know when you're done?
I had a writing instructor tell me that at some point you just abandon the work and move on to the next thing. Just abandon it. You're like, because the problem is you could just keep going. At some point, there is an end. The characters, that part of their story is done. And even I look back at, I have two now sort of autobiographical. I have a story I wrote about watching my father die called Past Tense. And it's a solo show. Look, I wrote it 20 years ago. If I wrote it now, it would be a different play because I've had 20 years to look back. But that's not when I wrote it then. So I performed it probably for the last time about 5 years ago and was like, no, it's done. That is the story that I wrote in that moment. Even the play I just wrote called Me Right Now will be different it's already different because Me Right Now is different than when I write. Yes. But at some point you go, that story is done. I have to abandon it and move to the next story. Because you can pick at it forever.
So absolutely.
Right?
And I think about that, in the seasons and cycles of our lives.
Yeah.
Right? When we fall out of that intimate connection with ourselves, creativity, curiosity, courage, joy, all of those kinds of things. And we can pick away at healing. That's something that I see a lot in my profession. Well, I got to heal this and I got to heal that. And I'm like, that's starting to smell like addiction to healing.
Oh,
right.
Addiction to healing.
Like I'm on the healing path. And I'm like, okay, what if you're done? Wait, what? I'm sorry, what? Nobody's ever done. And I'm like, no, that's true. That is true.
Right.
But this season might be complete.
Yes.
And it's not because it's tied up with a bow. It's because you get to choose.
Right.
We get to choose to leap off into a new story.
Yes.
A new perspective.
Yes.
And there's something powerful. There's a part of my path has taken me down a ceremonialist route. And so it's really delightful to bring ceremony to milestones,
Love it.
to sort of portals and thresholds in our lives.
Yes.
And one of the ones that I've learned in the course of sacred storytelling is the idea of telling the story the way you have been telling it for the last time. Choose it. Tell it the way you've always told it,
Yeah.
but know it's going to be the last time. Record it somehow, whether that's in writing, whether that's, in art and painting something, and then you burn it, shred it, flush it, whatever you need to do with it. But that's the last time you get that story. And just honoring the creative process of letting there be another one, which is what I hear you pointing to. At
Yeah.
some point, you just pick.
Yeah.
You'll abandon it
Yeah.
and do what's next.
You move on. You close that file.
Yeah.
You start a
Yeah.
new. And I always have, I probably have 4 plays in process right now that may or may not ever get finished or done or whatever. But yeah, like just move on to the next thing. Like
Yeah.
off you go. I love that ceremony thing though. I think we're terrible at that. We're terrible at celebrating. We're actually terrible at grieving. Yeah, I love that idea of, as a culture, we don't have a lot of great, if you're sort of the white, 3rd generation Canadian, like, I don't know, we don't have anything special that's marks time. And
Right.
I've never married or had kids, and so I've missed out even on more. First of all, I'm like, look, if you turn, I'm going to say 40, and you've not married, you just get a shower. Because all my friends, nobody's buying me new sheets. I need new sheets, new towels. I'm going to need some tea towels. I'm going to need a
Yep.
blender. I don't understand why. That's great that y'all got married once or twice now. You've got all the kiddos. I'm like, I got nothing. So I would
Yes.
should that not just be, I want
kind
a
of
new
think it
duvet.
should, actually.
Like,
Yeah.
congratulations, you live to 40 or 50 or whatever.
Right.
Where do-
And let's celebrate one another.
I
in
want
the
to
moment.
campaign for that. I don't know where to do
Yep.
that. Yes,
Today.
there's more opportunities to stop and commemorate and to add a little something to not just you got married or had a kid, but man, you graduated, you got a promotion, you healed a part of your life and you're moving on.
Yes.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
so true. It's so true. And in the the tradition of the divine feminine, we often talk about, you got maiden, mother, crone, right? And isn't crone a sexy term? More of that, right? But, I had an interview earlier with a woman who lives in an ashram, and she talked about the 4 ashrams in her lineage and tradition. And we don't have any equivalent for what is their 3rd ashram, which I'm going to do an injustice to. But it's the space between mothering and home-centered gathering, acquiring, building, growing humans or projects, whatever the thing is, and this elder or wise woman place. And we don't have anything to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, fall into this chasm where this is great. We don't give any flying fig Newtons anymore. But what's the point?
What's going on? Why?
What and why? And so there is something important about that, and even talking about our stories, sharing our stories more. Are women talking about menopause? Are we talking to younger women about, honey, welcome to the party. Come, join me. I have ice.
Or go.
Right? But we aren't talking about those. And so when we're talking about, again, this idea of the building of a human that has been so up for me, where are we sharing our stories? And we don't have a place. And so I think it has elevated our need for and hunger for the arts. Because there are places, I will say, when I can't handle the news, I go to the comedians, because I find in some ways it's the truest news. There's a lighter take on it that just points not just to making things funny, but to the deep irony
Right.
of so much of the human situation right now.
Yes.
And it's that creative brilliance that draws me out and helps me to engage again.
Yeah.
That's one of my pathways to that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that as a creator?
Yeah, it's, first of all, when I create is when I feel closest to my creator, when I'm, especially for me, writing, but even just sometimes being in the room with really smart, creative people, man. The energy in there, I don't have to say anything. I just want to sit back. I want to make the coffee and y'all just talk amongst yourselves, and I'll sit and watch that. It's what makes us human. The ability
Yeah.
to create, to make sense of the senseless. The only way I can do that is through art. There's so much that does not make sense. And there's no logical, there's no science, there's no math. We got to write a poem about it. We got to sing about
Yep.
it. We got to paint something about it. I it is the gateway to healing, I think, or to it is both, I think, a healer but also a provocation. It can also be the thing, like you say, it's the court jester that pokes at the stuff, right? It
Yeah.
is why when there is war, it is the artists that are often the ones shut down. We're closing down the theaters and the galleries because the artists are dangerous. We are scary. We are hopefully truth tellers. Although as it becomes more and more about money, I'm almost seeing less of that, of like, yeah, now we're just making, Dumb and Dumber 47 and Fast and Furious 62 or whatever, like, to be purely entertained. And I think the craft of what I do hopefully is entertaining. But I need to, as you said earlier, I tell stories that matter. Right. I have 3 words that drive my company: hope, challenge, change. I think, first of all, I think theater should be more like church and church should be more like theater. Because I think people want to leave and be a little different. Like, if you bought a ticket and got a sitter and drove downtown and got parking and like, yeah, I don't want you just leaving singing a little ditty. I want you to be a little different. Maybe you're pissed off. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you were deeply offended. Maybe you laughed a little or cried a little or saw a bit of yourself on stage or met somebody on stage that you would never run into in your real life, right? I think great story creates empathy and should just change you where you're like, I'd never thought of that. That's what I want to invest my life in. I'm not going to do Anne of Green Gables. I love it. I'm not doing Christmas Carol. I'm not doing Shakespeare
Right.
even. The power of doing that in theater, again, as opposed to film a little bit, is that you're sitting in the dark, full of strangers, but like those are real live people up there that are laughing and crying with you. And it's profound. It's really profound. I have been transformed by great story.
Yeah.
Like literally, I've changed my worldview because of stories of like, oh, I think about that differently now.
Yeah. Me too. And I appreciate that what you're providing right now with this is for the people who are not playwrights, who aren't visual artists, who aren't spoken word poets, right? What can I do? What do the arts have to do with me?
Right.
Well, somebody has to be a patron of the arts.
Yes.
Frankly.
Frankly.
And to be able to let that in, to be able to allow creativity to be an exchange and to receive the gifts of those on stage and to extend back that receptivity and appreciation and to ripple out into the world a little bit to a lot differently. It comes to mind for me. I'm curious what you think about this. I feel like all of the stories are somehow true. Mm-hmm. But are they the parts of ourselves that we aspire to grow into more of? So if I'm watching movies, if I'm consuming books that are showing me the basest, most inhumane parts of myself, well, that's real.
Yeah.
Because we all have that too.
Right.
So, okay, I can acknowledge that. For me, when I read, I think it's Let's Talk About Kevin. Did you ever read this? It's the book of the mother of a serial killer. And I remember my husband at the time asked me, he's like, why are you reading about a serial killer? I'm like, I'm not. I'm reading about a mother
Interesting.
of somebody who
Right.
made this choice.
Right.
Profoundly like one of the most life-changing books I've actually ever read. And I don't even know why. But it was dark, it was heavy. I had to prepare myself and I had to go and read something super fluffy afterwards. But I think good art, to your point, provokes, and it provoked something in my mind, in my imagination to go, that could be anybody
Right.
that I know or love or care for.
Yeah. Love. It again. I think there's something about story that should bring us empathy, that we get to meet people that in my daily life, maybe
Yes.
I'm never going to meet a woman who's been sex trafficked, or maybe I'm never going to meet someone who has been, is addicted to meth. To see them on stage or in the pages of a book and hear their story. Again, it doesn't have to change. I think people can be offended by things. And I was like, no, I'm not asking you to actually change your opinion about meth, but I'm asking you to empathize with this character, this person who is entangled in this, and how they got there, and maybe how they got out or didn't get out. It takes away the othering, like those
Yes.
other people. Well, they're not that far away.
When my kids were little, I heard this somewhere and it really resonated with sort of my constitution, I guess. This idea there's no such thing as other people's children, and that meth addict is somebody's child.
And I think about that
from
about
someone,
on death. Person
Yeah.
on death row has a mom, right? Like I'm not condoning what they did or how they got there, all the things, but I'm like, they got a mom somewhere who's
Yeah.
like, yeah. I just finished reading this play. It's a one woman show, and this woman's in a kitchen baking pie, and you don't really like, oh, that's weird, and then you realize she reveals probably 20 minutes in, she's in a penitentiary and she's making pie for her son. This is his last meal, and he's requested his mom's pie, and she's making pie and talking about her son. You're like, oh my gosh, so great, so
Wow.
great.
So well done.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for the listener who's tuning in, here's the invitation is to imagine all of the characters around you, all the people around you. Imagine yourself as a character in somebody's story. And what changes to just be in relationship to that curiosity, because in somebody's story, I am a villain. I know that is true. There are plenty of people who believe me as such. To some, I'm the poor sap. I'm like, I am the clown that stumbled in and stumbled out, the comic distraction. And to others, I've had impacts. And so what changes if we think about all of it being story? And what is it to tell good story with our lives?
Realizing they have a story that got them to the decisions they're making now. Again,
Yes.
whether we agree or not. I had a very different experience in COVID than other people. I didn't know anyone close to me that died, even my mother who got COVID and didn't so I wasn't
Wow.
afraid. I wasn't afraid of COVID or the vaccine because I had an experience where, yeah, it disrupted my life, you bet, and all the whatever. Then I had friends who, had two people die of it, and so they were terrified and didn't leave the house for 3 years and are still wearing a mask right? And I can look at them and be judgmental and why you did it, but I'm like, oh, you have a story as to why you chose that. It doesn't necessarily change my opinion about something, but hopefully I can be kinder to them in understanding, oh, you didn't just wake up one morning and have a fear or something got you there,
Yes.
right? And whether that's
Yeah.
a political thing or like all the things that are dividing us now and we want to fight about, it's like, oh, you got there because of something. Like you didn't roll over one morning. And again, we can still disagree on things, but boy, when I can understand someone's story a little bit more, like, okay, well, that makes a little more sense.
And then, if we go up to the big meta story and look at all these characters running around on this little planet going, oh, they're so cute. They're so self-important. They think they're so right. And it's also urgent.
It's all very urgent.
Very urgent.
Yeah, no, I don't. And boy, doesn't it change as we get older too. I don't know if I'm not sure if it speeds up or slows down, but sense of time changes a bit as you get older and you look at things a little differently.
So
Yeah,
true.
I don't know. I just want to be a grumpy old woman that's my goal is to definitely be grumpier.
How will you measure that?
It's true. And it's interesting when you talk about vulnerability and truth. Every great writer will say they didn't become a really great writer until after their parents died. Like, right? Because there is a
Yep.
family. I'm not lying about anything in my life, but there are stories I will not tell until my mother passes. Out of a respect, out of do I need to bring that up again? Well, she's like, there's nothing we can do about it now, but it's a part of my story. It will be interesting when my mother passes, the stories that I may have a bit more freedom to tell, or even in the way I tell story may even change. We'll see.
We will see. I'll be so interested. That I've never thought about it in those terms, but I remember being in I think it was in a bookstore in LA, and I was looking at all these writing books, and I had been doing a ton of writing, and there was this man standing near me, and we got to chatting, and he said, yeah, these two are mine. And I was like, oh, interesting. So now I've got this opportunity to speak to this author who writes about writing, about the craft. And I was like, if only he knew the impact on me. Because I said, so what's the one thing? What is one thing you would say to somebody who is reclaiming their voice as a writer? Right? It was a very deep, poetic question. Right? But he said that everything you write, but you know will see themselves in it. When you build that character, your mom is going to think it's that time.
100%. Every play I write, they're like,
Val, I quit cold turkey. I was like, I cannot have it. I can't do it. I am half Korean, and Koreans are as private as they get. So I was like, okay, well, that was a fun idea, and that was the end of it, you know. And I'm just coming back around creatively,
interesting,
to using my voice and my writing and all of these things. So
look, have you watched Kim's Convenience?
Yes.
Okay,
non-stop.
So frickin' how? So he's a friend of mine, the guy who wrote that, Ince Choi. So he's this lovely guy from Toronto who I just actually was hanging out with him in Vancouver. But yeah, you want to, oh my gosh, he just wrote a new play called Son of a Preacher Man. And he talks about growing up with his dad was a preacher, his grandpa, and the pressure. And so he went to like seminary, but then he took an acting class and was like, damn it.
Yep.
Right. But his parents they're so angry at him for like, but oh my gosh, he's the funniest. But
he really, because he acts in it too, right? Isn't he the?
He does he didn't in the TV show. He acted in the play. So it started as this really lovely play that toured kind of across Canada. It's actually been to London twice. It's actually going to come.
And he's Korean. We should just bother to name.
He's 100% Korean. And the show, so Kim's Convenience, is now going to tour down the West Coast in the States. It's going down, I think, to San Francisco. Yeah, but yeah, you are right. Every single thing you write, like, yeah, everyone's going to say, it's like, is that about me? Is that, yeah, I'm like, no.
So I'm going to come back to your 3 words, hope, challenge, and change.
Yeah.
And my hope for our listeners is that they've received here a bit of hope, a bit of challenge, maybe even confrontation to like sit up and look around a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And an invitation to change in relationship to their story about themselves.
Yeah.
What they're capable of, what they can and can't, should or shouldn't, choose or don't choose. Anything that you would add to that you hope people take away?
Yeah. Here's what I'm done with. I'm done with hopeless stories. That doesn't mean happy endings, because that's not truthful. There's sometimes unhappy endings to stories, to scenes in our lives, chapters in our book. But I'm a person of hope. And so I don't want art to be hopeless. There's enough of that. There's enough people creating that I'm like, I'm not going to do that. People will never leave my theater being like, I want to jump off a bridge, hopefully. Like there's a spark of like, okay. But yeah, going back to why do we change? If you are not challenged, you probably won't change. If there isn't something that has provoked you, poked at you, you're just going to be fine with the status quo. You're just going to sit in it until something motivates you. Life is short. My dad, he died at 77. My mom's 97, both short. There's never enough years, right? And so I just want to suck as much out of it as I can. And I want to tell as many great stories as I possibly can and help. If I can help other people do that, great. Look, yeah, will you come to my funeral? It's going to be great. I don't...
It'll be good.
I want there to be a taco truck for cert. I want tacos at my funeral, at my German funeral, just to spite my family.
Well, I love it. And I love that banking collided with the arts for you and pulled you back.
You want to talk about a horrible, inciting incident of like, what do I do with my life? Only job, I just bought a house, single woman, had not been to university, college, have no skills to speak of. And what could have been really like, here's what everyone told me to do: walk across the street and get a job at another bank. You have a house to pay for, you have and every bone in my body said, don't, I can't do it. I can't do it for some reason. And started a theater company, which was like, look, if you're talking about it, return on your investment, this is terrible. No, I'm never seeing that money again. And I put this like lovely lump sum that they gave me. But I started my calling. Yeah. And I have so many, I'll bet we even still know people at the bank who are still like, I'm just going to do one more year because I'm going to get one more Christmas bonus. I'm going to buy one more car. I'm going to get the last payment on the new boat. I'm going to, and they're still there.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll say, what you're pointing to for me is listen to that still small voice. And not just hear it and then go on about your business, but be in relationship to that voice that is hungering for something different or for something more.
Yeah.
That's hungering for a bit more life, a bit more vitality, a bit less numbness, and wondering just what else is possible.
It's a discipline, right? It really is. It's just so easy to just sit on the couch. I know, I love my couch, and watch and scroll, and like it is such a discipline to get up after your hard day of work and keep your pants on and go to the theater and go to an art gallery, go to a movie. Yes, please go and do, because we're going to lose our artists who are deeply underfunded. I don't know exactly how it works in the States, but we are deeply underfunded here. Yeah, we need you on behalf of artists everywhere. Please leave your pants on after work and just go. Just go to the thing. Yeah. And you'll be look, you're going to see some bad art for sure, and you're going to be disappointed, but there'll be lots of times where you're like, I'm so glad I did that. I didn't choose to just watch another rerun, to watch, Friends one more time.
Val, thank you so much. Thank you for talking about storytelling. Thank you for your commitment to this, for your commitment to being a grumpy old woman who's making stuff.
I'm not kidding around here, people.
And on we go.
I hope your people have a great little conversation about this. I hope we offended some people. I want to see the comments, hopefully. Did we piss anyone off?
Exactly.
Like, it's not too late. I could say something offensive right now.
And this has been great. Coming to you live.